Picture this. You're standing on 4 acres of blacktop, and every single vehicle around you gleams under stadium lighting like it just rolled out of a showroom in a movie. Diesel trucks lined up in perfect rows, chrome catching the sun. A building with glass walls and a coffee bar that looks more like a boutique hotel lobby than a car lot. Somewhere behind that glass sits the owner, and if you had to guess, you'd probably assume this person is sitting on a small fortune. Here's the number that should stop you cold. That lot, that inventory, that gleaming operation, it just did $42 million in revenue last year. $42 million moving through this single dealership. So go ahead, guess what the owner actually took home. $1 million? $5 million? Even $500,000 feels conservative for a business pulling in numbers like that. The real answer, $380,000, not $380,000 a month, a year. On $42 million in revenue, this dealership kept less than 1% as actual profit. That's not a typo. And it's not an outlier, it's close to industry average. The rest? Swallowed by inventory costs, financing, staff overhead, and a financial structure most people never think to question. If you've ever looked at a dealership, or any big, flashy business, and assumed the size of the operation tells you the size of the wealth inside it, this video is about to break that assumption completely. Because the truth about truck dealerships isn't about trucks at all. It's about margin, leverage, and a hidden cost structure that can turn a $42 million success story into a business one bad quarter away from collapse. Here's the trap almost everyone falls into. We equate visible wealth with real wealth, and nowhere is that trap more perfectly set than a truck dealership. Think about what you actually see when you drive past one. $8 million in inventory sitting under floodlights. A building that cost more than most people's houses. Land in a prime commercial corridor. Uniformed staff, polished floors, a service bay humming with activity. Every visual cue your brain has ever used to size up wealth is screaming, this person is rich. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Almost none of what you're looking at is actually owned. That $8 million in inventory, financed, truck by truck, through a lending arrangement most customers never hear about. That land and building? Very likely mortgaged. Even the trucks getting serviced in the bay might belong to a bank until the moment they're sold. What looks like an asset-rich empire is, in reality, a high-volume operation built almost entirely on borrowed capital, moving fast, thin, and constantly exposed. This is the myth we need to bust right now. Owning a dealership isn't like owning a stack of valuable things. It's closer to running airport logistics, massive volume, tight windows, and margins so thin that a small disruption anywhere in the chain can wipe out months of work. The owner isn't wealthy because they hold assets. If they're wealthy at all, it's because they've mastered turning inventory over faster than the costs of carrying it can catch up. So, if new truck sales aren't where the real money is made, and we already know they're barely profitable, then where exactly does a dealership's income actually come from? The answer might surprise you, because it has almost nothing to do with the trucks parked out front. Every dealership runs on 4 separate income streams, and if you don't know the difference between them, you'll never understand how this business actually survives. Let's break them down one at a time, because the gap between them is where the entire industry's secret lives. Stream 1, new truck sales. This is the flashy part, the part everyone assumes is the business. But margins here run just 2 to 5%. Sell a $65,000 truck, and after floor plan interest, incentives, and overhead, the dealership might clear $1,500 to $2,000. That's it for weeks of marketing, negotiation, and paperwork. Stream 2, used truck sales. Slightly better, sitting around 8 to 12% margin. More flexibility on pricing, less manufacturer interference, but still exposed to market swings and depreciation risk if a truck sits too long. Stream 3, parts and service. Now we're getting somewhere. Margins here run 40 to 70%. Oil changes, brake jobs, transmission work, warranty repairs. Unglamorous, unphotographed, and wildly profitable. A single truck sold today can generate service revenue for years afterward, quietly compounding in the background while nobody's watching. Stream 4, F&I, financing and insurance. This is the highest margin stream in the entire business. Extended warranties, financing markups, gap insurance, sold in a back office with almost no overhead attached. Dollar for dollar, nothing else in the dealership comes close. Now here's the moment that should genuinely surprise you. Picture 2 customers walking through the same dealership on the same day. Camper 1 buys a brand new $65,000 truck. After everything, inventory financing, staff commission, overhead, the dealership nets around $1,500. Customer 2 brings in a 5-year-old truck for routine maintenance. Small ticket, maybe $400 for the visit. But that same customer comes back every 6 months for the next 5 years. Oil changes, brake jobs, the occasional bigger repair. Over that relationship, service alone can generate more net profit than the original truck sale ever did. Ride that again. The person spending $65,000 on a new truck can be worth less to the dealership, long-term, than the person who just wanted their oil changed. This is the wait, what? Moment most people never see coming because it flips the entire assumption of what this business is. Trucks are the bait. Service is the business. The showroom exists to create relationships that pay off in the garage, not on the sales floor. But here's the catch. None of these four revenue streams matter if the inventory sitting on that lot is quietly bleeding the dealership dry before a single truck even sells. And that's exactly what's happening behind the scenes, every single day, whether the owner notices it or not. Here's something almost no customer walking onto a dealership lot ever thinks about. Every single truck sitting there is costing the owner money, every single day, whether it sells or not. It's called floor plan financing, and it's the quiet engine running underneath the entire industry. Dealerships don't pay cash for their inventory. They borrow it, often from the same manufacturer's finance arm that built the truck, and that loan starts accruing interest the moment the vehicle touches the lot. Every day a truck sits unsold, interest keeps ticking. It's rent, essentially, paid on merchandise the dealership doesn't even own yet. Now let's do the math, because this is where the real danger hides. Imagine a dealership carrying a fairly typical $10 million in floor-planned inventory. At a 5% interest rate, that's roughly $500. Zeros on a year in carrying costs, already a serious number, but one most healthy dealerships can absorb. Now watch what happens when rates climb. Push that same $10 million to a 9% rate, a shift we've genuinely seen happen in recent years. And carrying costs jump to $900, zero annually. That's an extra $400,000 in pure cost. No new competitor showed up, no customers disappeared, not a single truck changed. The dealership just got $400,000 poorer because of a number set by a central bank hundreds of miles away. Remember that $380, zero in annual profit from Section 1? A rate move like this doesn't dent that number, it erases it completely and pushes the business into the red. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. The owner didn't do anything wrong. They didn't overspend, mismanage staff, or make a bad bet. The floor beneath their entire profit margin simply moved. This is the fear most owners never see coming until it's already happened. Floor plan costs don't show up as a dramatic headline or a sudden crisis. They creep quietly, tied to interest rate decisions that feel abstract and distant until the monthly statement lands and the math no longer works. By the time most owners notice the squeeze, months of erosion have already occurred, and reversing course takes far longer than the damage took to arrive. So if two dealerships can look nearly identical from the outside, same size, same inventory, same location, what actually separates the one that survives a rate shock from the one that doesn't? The answer isn't luck, it's strategy. And nothing illustrates that divide better than watching two real owners make two very different bets with the exact same business model. Let's make this real. Picture two dealerships open the same year, in similar markets, backed by similar capital, same brand, same size lot, same starting inventory. On paper, at the 5-year mark, you'd expect two similar businesses. Instead, one is thriving, the other is circling the drain. Same industry, same starting line, completely different outcomes. Here's exactly why. Meet owner A ambitious, image-driven, obsessed with volume. His philosophy: move as many trucks as possible, chase every manufacturer incentive, keep the lot packed with shiny new inventory to project success. Revenue climbs fast, $45 million by year 3. Genuinely impressive on paper. But underneath, he's carrying $12 million in floor-planned inventory at all times. Cash reserves are thin because every dollar gets reinvested into buying more trucks, and his service department is an afterthought. 3 bays, minimal staff, treated as a cost center rather than a profit engine. Now meet owner B. Same starting capital, same opportunity, completely different instincts. She keeps new inventory leaner, $6 million floor planned instead of $12 million, deliberately sacrificing some sales volume to reduce carrying cost exposure. Revenue looks smaller on paper, around $30 million by year 3, but she pours resources into her service department. 8 bays instead of 3, experienced technicians, a real customer retention program. Less flash, far more resilience, then the shock hits. Interest rates climb 2 points over 18 months, exactly the scenario we walked through in the last section. Watch what happens to each business. Owner A's floor plan costs balloon by roughly $360,000 a year almost overnight. His thin margins, already stretched from an inventory-heavy strategy, can't absorb it. Cash reserves, never strong to begin with, get wiped out within 2 quarters. He starts missing floor plan payments. The manufacturer tightens his credit line. By year 4, he's forced to sell the dealership at a steep discount just to escape the debt spiral. The successful 45 million business collapses under its own weight. Owner B feels the same rate hike. Nobody escapes that. Her floor plan costs rise to roughly $180,000 a year, painful but manageable, because her service department was already generating steady high-margin revenue untouched by interest rates. That income cushions the blow. She adjusts, trims new inventory slightly further, and rides through the downturn intact. By year 4, while owner A is liquidating, she's actually expanding, buying up service equipment at discount prices from dealerships that didn't survive. Same industry, same starting resources, same external shock. Completely different outcomes, not because of luck, but because one owner built a business that looked impressive and the other built one that was actually durable. This is the moment where the illusion fully breaks. The flashier dealership failed, and the boring one won. So if strategy determines survival this dramatically, what other risks are quietly lurking underneath this industry that most owners never even think to prepare for? Floor plan exposure is the risk everyone eventually learns about, usually the hard way. But it's not the only threat lurking underneath this industry, and the other 3 rarely get discussed until they're already causing damage. First, dealerships are one of the earliest casualties of any economic downturn. Truck purchases, especially heavy-duty and commercial trucks, are what economists call a leading indicator. Businesses stop buying new trucks the moment they sense trouble ahead, long before layoffs hit the news or GDP numbers turn negative. That means a dealership doesn't get the warning signal everyone else gets. It gets hit first, often months before the broader economy visibly slows down, while owners are still reading headlines that say everything's fine. Second, cyclical whiplash. Because trucks are a leading indicator on the way down, they're also a leading indicator on the way back up. Which sounds like good news, except recovery brings its own trap. Owners who got burned in the downturn often overcorrect, restocking inventory aggressively the moment demand returns, right as interest rates are typically still elevated from the tightening cycle that caused the slowdown in the first place. That combination, high demand, high borrowing costs, has quietly bankrupted plenty of dealerships that technically survived the recession itself. Third, and this one's reshaping the entire industry right now, electric vehicles. Remember Section 3. Parts and service is the profit engine of this business, generating 40 to 70% margins that keep dealerships alive between truck sales. EVs need a fraction of the maintenance a combustion engine requires. No oil changes, far fewer moving parts to wear down, fewer transmission repairs, fewer routine visits, fewer service tickets altogether. As electric trucks slowly gain market share, they're not just changing what dealerships sell, they're quietly eroding the exact revenue stream that made the business survivable in the first place. Put these 3 risks together, and you get a picture no glossy dealership website will ever show you. A business that gets hit first in downturns, gets tempted into bad timing during recoveries, and is watching its most reliable profit center shrink from a technology shift most owners can't stop or slow down. None of this means the model is doomed. Plenty of owners navigate it brilliantly. But it does mean that anyone looking at this industry from the outside is seeing a fraction of the real risk picture. So if you were actually considering buying into one of these dealerships yourself, what would it really cost you to get in? And what would you honestly walk away with? Let's say all of this hasn't scared you off. You're still intrigued. You've got capital. You like the idea of owning a piece of this industry. So what does actually buying in look like in real numbers? Start with the manufacturer's approval process, which alone can take months and isn't guaranteed. Manufacturers vet owners carefully, and they typically require a minimum net worth threshold before they'll even consider you, often $2 to $5 million in liquid or near-liquid assets, just to prove you can weather a bad stretch without collapsing. Then comes real estate. Dealerships need significant frontage, visibility, and space for inventory and service bays. Land and buildings that frequently run $3 to $8 million depending on market and size. Most owners don't pay this outright. They finance it, adding another layer of monthly debt service on top of everything else. Next, working capital reserves. Manufacturers and lenders want to see cash cushion, typically $500,000 to $1 million sitting in reserve, untouched, purely as a buffer against slow months. And then the big one, your floor plan credit line. To stock a functional lot, you're looking at $5 to $10 million in financed inventory from day one, the exact exposure we spent 2 sections unpacking. Add it up, and a realistic buy-in for a mid-sized dealership lands somewhere between $8 and $15 million in total capital commitment, blending owned equity and finance debt. That's the price of entry into a business that, as we saw in Section 1, might net under 1% of revenue in a good year. So what do you actually walk away with? In a strong year with disciplined inventory management and a healthy service department, think Owner B's approach. Realistic owner income lands somewhere in the $300, $0 to $600,000 range. Respectable, real money. But measured against $8 to $15 million in capital exposure, that's a return that demands serious operational skill just to sustain, let alone grow. And in a bad year, a rate spike, a demand slowdown, a service department that never got built out, that same owner can just as easily net negative, watching equity erode instead of accumulate, exactly like owner A. This is the honest picture missing from every own your own dealership pitch. It's not a lifestyle purchase, and it's not passive wealth. It's an operating business with slim margins, serious leverage, and outcomes that swing enormously based on decisions made years before any crisis actually hits. The dream of ownership is real, but only for owners who understand exactly what they're signing up for before they sign anything at all. Which brings us to the real question this entire breakdown has been building toward. Because the lessons buried inside a truck dealership's books apply to something much bigger than trucks. Let's go back to where we started. A dealership doing $42 million in revenue, gleaming under floodlights, looking every bit like a wealth machine, and netting less than 1% as actual profit. That gap between appearance and reality isn't a quirk of the truck business. It's a pattern, and once you see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere. Big revenue doesn't mean big wealth. Impressive assets don't mean real ownership. A packed lot, a shiny building, a business that looks successful from the outside can be one interest rate move away from collapse, while a quieter, less flashy operation, built on durable margins instead of visible size, quietly outlasts it. We saw that exact divide play out between owner A and owner B. Same industry, same starting capital, wildly different outcomes, because one built for appearance and the other built for survival. This is the real lesson, and it extends far beyond truck dealerships. The next time you're evaluating any business or investment opportunity, a franchise, a rental property portfolio, a company on your watch list, don't just ask how big it looks. Ask 3 questions instead. What's the actual margin after every cost is accounted for? How much of this is financed leverage versus real ownership? And which revenue stream would still be standing if conditions got significantly worse tomorrow? Most people evaluate opportunities by what they can see, the size, the shine, the confidence of the person running it. But the investors and owners who actually win long-term are the ones who learn to look underneath that surface, at the margins and leverage most people never bother to check. So the next time something looks like a $42 million success story, remember, the real number that matters was never the one on the sign out front. It's the one buried 3 layers deep in the books, and now you know exactly where to look.